I knew I always wanted to scale, and I knew that I wanted to do something more than just painting.
You have different products and services, and you test different things, and you see what the audience likes, but you have to build the personal brand.
What is the long-term business that I want to create? What does it look like?
The thing we got to figure out is...
Welcome to Legacy Launchpad, where kingdom-minded entrepreneurs build profitable businesses without compromising faith or family. I'm Leah McHenry. Let's build your legacy together.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, I am doing a little coaching session with one of my clients named Katherine Leckie. Katherine is a renowned artist. She is so talented, and she's been doing this a long time. And we are having a brainstorming session about how she can pivot and grow her brand, especially when she has experienced a variety of what she considers flops and fails. She's tried to build herself up as an artist online, doing original paintings. And then she's also been trying to sell tutorials, which in a different session of one of our coaching calls, I encourage her to maybe think of it more as an academy and not just tutorials because of the connotation. So we are exploring a variety of avenues she can and should take as an artist. And the biggest takeaway I hope that you come away with is when we start to talk about thinking of yourself as a creative entrepreneur as more of a brand and not just, someone who does paintings or someone who writes books. Treating yourself like a personal brand and building it up like that is going to be a huge key in what you hear. So if you like what you hear, please give this channel a subscribe and hit like. It's free and it's a way of saying thank you to me for this content. Appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Katherine. It's really exciting to be able to talk to you. And, one of the things that I love doing is helping other artists. I have this background in music as an artist myself, recording artist. And, we work with a lot of creatives, right? A lot of artists and musicians and people doing creative things. And you've been on this journey of entrepreneurship of like monetizing your actual artwork, but then also exploring other options and things that you can do with your brand, essentially. So I know we've been working through troubleshooting. We've been working through a bunch of different things that, failed flops, or as you would call it, some flop launches and things like that. And so we've just been navigating through the journey because this is part of it. This is all part of what it means to be an entrepreneur, especially in the creative space. And there's a lot of pivoting. And so can you just give like a quick snapshot of your background, what you do, and some of the things you've tried and tested and where you're at now? And we'll just work through it a bit.
Sure. Thanks, Leah. So I'm a painter, and I started this journey of creating my own business about a year and a half ago when I started to paint more again. And I sold paintings, not lots, but a few, to friends and local people. I had commissions and things like that. But I knew I always wanted to scale, and I knew that I wanted to do something more than just painting to sell a few here and there. So then I brought out some prints and sold a few of those, and then found you at the beginning of last year. And I started out wanting to try and sell more prints, and then I wanted to try to do something digital. And so I spent a lot of time really over last summer creating 3 slow living inspired art tutorials that I recorded and launched in your way. And I feel I did a lot of things right, but there was clearly quite a few things wrong that, although I got some really good feedback, they didn't take off. And you very helpfully went through some of the potential mismatches where that was. And then that was just before Christmas. And I'm at the point where I'm trying to decide, do I really double down and look at those tutorials and make that my thing and really relaunch those again and again and find out where I need to tweak things? Or do I consider another idea that I have? And a lot of it comes down to thinking about, I guess there's a fear I have, which is wasting time and money. And some of it comes down to what is the long-term business that I want to create? What does it look like? Do I want to be creating digital products, tutorials? That's what I've done so far. Or do I want to be going down the more e-commerce route? So I've got an idea for printing products with my art on them to create a new brand. So that's where I am at the moment. And I spent one day feeling a little sad about my flopped launch and have got back to things. But I guess I don't want to really reinvest a load of time into the tutorials if I feel that maybe there just wasn't the fit there. But at the same time, I don't want to move on to something else without having really tried again. So that's where I am right now.
The thing we're really working through is I think we're really on to something because, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you kind of viewing everything you're doing through the lens of either this or that? Like either I sell my art or I do the tutorials and I sell information and those kinds of products. Is that how you've been viewing it?
Initially, no, I was going to build my brand as an artist and sell my tutorials alongside my art, as it were. But this other product idea I have would be another business where I would talk about myself as an artist, but I would be printing my artwork in a kind of different format into journals and notebooks and kind of creating a really high-end stationery brand, actually. Well, that's not, I don't exactly stationery, but yeah.
Okay, so I have something for you to think about. And this is so applicable to basically all the artists I've ever worked with, all the musicians I've ever worked with, and the way I've treated my own music career. And then I think this also separates what I do from what so many people out there do is people often have this idea of separating everything. Like I have to separate everything. Like I can't have music and merchandise and this and that and hold retreats and do this. And what I'm saying is actually that can all fall under one brand. You are the brand. This is really where things are heading, especially in this age right now. We're at a very unique time in history where the best thing you can build is actually your personal brand. So actually, the way I would treat this is you're building your personal brand as the artist, but as the artist, you sell your actual original works, you sell merchandise, you sell prints, and you sell tutorials. Like all of those things can come under one umbrella brand. Now, here's the interesting thing that I spent many years teaching musicians all about there's these different streams of income as an artist. Here's what we don't know. What we don't know is there might be one of those streams that actually really takes off, but you don't know which stream that's going to be. So for a musician and artists, like we have physical products, we can have digital products, we have experiences, we have memberships and courses. Like this is literally what happened to me. I was making music and I had, I think, 2 albums at the time. And this was my cute side little hobby that nobody really took serious except for me and a few fans on the internet. And I thought I would add, I had a small measure of success. Like at that point, we started buying some groceries with my music money. So it was just like, I would call that still fairly MVP stage. Like, still validating, still trying to figure out my identity as an artist, still trying to figure out my who am I and who am I in this market? And because I had a small measure of success, I thought, well, I'll write an ebook and kind of map out my methodology of what I did because I do have friends. Like I still had 4 kids at the time when I was doing this. And I launched this ebook, not really knowing what I'm doing. And that completely flopped. Like nobody bought it. And I worked on that for a while. And so I had the same thing where I thought, oh, well, that didn't really take off. And then I thought, well, I learned later on that, this is when courses were just starting to really become a thing on the internet. And so I thought, well, what if I took the structure of the content of that ebook and turn it into like a video course? That seems to be a thing. So that's what I tried next. And the next thing we're making $1 million. And at that point, I had already my actual art. So my music, I had a digital product that didn't work. I had some merchandise. I had some t-shirts and some, physical CDs. I had some physical items. And then I had this other information product that I didn't even know that I would be good at. And so, and if you look at the structure of other artists out there, like I'm going to use musicians because it's a great example of how someone builds a brand. If you look at any famous artist, they are definitely not just selling their art. They are definitely also selling experiences like concerts, VIP tickets. Sometimes some of them do, like one of my clients, he does these like sound retreats, like he does all this sound healing stuff. And he does these epic retreats and now it's a whole experience, right? Like you're coming out for a weekend or whatever. And he built a whole business, like a multi-6-figure business off of that, not knowing that was going to be the thing that was going to take off. So what I'm saying is there's definitely a process of exploration with many different paths. And that's why I don't take the approach of it's one thing or the other. Only this was going to work or only that. And that's why I could never nail myself down as what kind of coach am I? I only teach courses or I only teach ecom. No, because in my view, the next iteration of brand is all of them. It's all of these things under a single umbrella brand. But the trick is we don't know which one is going to take off until we really apply ourselves. And it's this process of exploration, which is what you're doing now. And that is brilliant. And you're doing it all correct. You're doing it right. The thing we got to figure out is how to really put you on the map as the artist. So I would start with you as the artist because everything's going to be based off of that, right? So for example, on the music career side of things, I want to be known, I want to be put on the map for my unique sound. Like I combine different elements. I do this thing I'm really well known for. I have this kind of Celtic fantasy vibe and I have a soft voice, but I can do different things with my voice. So people recognize that very unique sound. And that's what I want to be known for initially. Now, off of that, here's the thing. And every musician, every artist needs to think about this. If you were asking the right question at the beginning, you're talking about like, what is it that I want? And the bigger question is, what culture are you building? Right? Because if you can define what is the culture you're building, which you talked a lot about slow living and there's a lot of that. So we start to build culture and that art is an extension and a contribution to that culture, meaning people really know that we stand for something and we stand against something. What are we against? Who's the enemy? What's the enemy? And if you can make that very prominent within your brand, you're going to be put on the map really quick because it's like a magnet, right? One side attracts, the other side repels. That's perfect.
Yeah.
If you get people like haters, that's perfect. That's how you know you're doing it right. Not that I think you will get that many because it's so beautiful, but with any art, right? It's going to be for people and it is definitely not for other people. And that's great. So how is this landing for you so far as I'm talking through this?
I think it's really, really helpful here. And I think it's one of my weaknesses is I don't like attention. I'm one of these introverted people who likes to communicate through my art. And I guess also I need to rethink whether I really lean into the slow living thing or whether I actually lean more into my faith and the fact that my work is trying to tap into this sense of the transcendent. And so I guess I'm not quite sure. I lent into the slow living, but there are some people that don't love the slow living, but they are my kind of people. So anyway, it's landing really well. And I think you're absolutely right. I tend to think I need to focus on one thing or the other.
Yeah, that's very good. So I think we're onto something here. And it's very common for creatives to think in kind of black and white thinking. This happens. But have you studied, I know you've done research on like the market.
Yeah.
If we look at the market and we look at, slow living is pretty hard to identify the size of that market. It's pretty hard to identify like, well, how many people, because it's kind of it's a lifestyle, it's a belief, but there's not a lot of brands built around this. There's not a lot of products built around this. So it's a bit intangible. That would be my one concern with making that the entire focus of your brand or the culture of your brand. Whereas if it's faith-based, well, we can quantify that. We can say the faith-based market is this big in this country. We can really put numbers behind that. So to me, if you were to lean into that and it's like your art is coming from a place of faith, you're going to have so much instant connection with people. I just think that will be easier than trying to lean into slow living, which is very intangible, hard to quantify how many people are in that segment of people.
Yeah.
So that's my personal opinion without having done the research myself. How does that feel? Like, does that resonate at all?
It does. And I think that was something when I was doing research, I found difficult to quantify because it's vague and because different people mean slightly different things by it. So I think that's really true.
Okay. So if you were to think of your brand as, it's Katherine Leckie, the faith-based artist, and within that brand, you have different products and services. One of the exercises I like to take people through is, if you were to think of your brand as a magazine and it's your face on the front cover, what are all the different things inside of that magazine? You remember, everything's so digital now, but I remember loving magazines as a kid. You could pick up any magazine and there's what kinds of articles, what kinds of ads, what are the products inside? What are the different topics? What are the features? And, all the different components that make up a magazine and all the way they put that together is quite an art form too. And what is your magazine? What's inside of there? There might be different products, services, features. and seasonality to them as well, right? So I actually still subscribe to a couple of magazines for my girls, and I think they come quarterly. And so they're very seasonal. And so one is just all about tea times and all this. And they're just beautiful photos. And, they're very seasonal. The Christmas issue and spring issue, and just makes you feel like you're embracing the current season. And so if you were to treat your brand like this, there's a lot of things you can do. And I just want to encourage you to open up your mind to, I can have all of those things. I can have a product. I can do amazing custom stationery and the different aspects. I can do lessons. I can do that. Now, we don't know which one is going to be the one that brings in most of the revenue, because there's the rule of 80-20. Typically, whenever you do anything, this is a Pareto principle, 80% of the results are coming from 20% of the efforts. And we just haven't found what that 20% is. But we're going to test some different things. So I think this is a matter of, leaning into your intuition a bit. And I think it's already there. Everything you're telling me, it's like, it's there. Like, you actually knew already that the faith-based is more quantifiable than slow living. So let's go that direction.
Yeah.
Next thing would be, like, you're already selling your art, but we want you to become more well-known for that. I have some more tactical things that we do in our program. I'll talk about it on our next call, to do with some low-cost ads and things like that barely cost much and will get people seeing what you do. Number one, interested in your art or following you because they admire you. And then also the messaging, the stories you're putting behind the art. I think we want to make that more featured and prominent. But then the e-commerce side of it, selling the merchandise or selling physical products, this can all be part of this brand. You might have your main website. It's possible they click off of that and go to a Shopify site, or you already have one now, actually.
Yes.
So this is all doable. And this is the new way forward, is combining different products and services under the same umbrella brand. I was thinking of musicians before. When you think of anyone famous, none of them are only selling music. They all have apparel. They all have like perfume. They have makeup. They have spirits. They have, if you think of anyone famous, none of them are just selling their art. They
Right.
all have these other side brands. And those brands, those side brands, you think of name someone. They have, usually those other side brands are much bigger than their actual art, most of them. And you can look up the figures for them too. It's very interesting. So, I'm just thinking of a pop star like Rihanna or something. She's got a makeup line. She has perfume. She has apparel. She has, I don't know, she owns so much. I don't even know. So, anybody, this is how it works. Because if we only rely just on the art, it's just quite narrow, and it's usually very specific arts. Now we want to maximize it. There's a lot of ways we can do that. Prints and whatnot. This is really the way forward for artists, is multiple different streams and products and offerings under a brand. So with that said, what do you need clarity on next, or do you feel like you got it?
I think when you put it like that, Leah, I need to lean further into what I really stand for. So if I am going to go down the faith-based route, I have this sense that I want to create a brand around the sort of classical values or the Christian values of goodness, truth, and beauty. And my work fits that. And so I have a kind of plan for it. I just wasn't quite sure whether to dive into that or whether I needed to do the tutorials differently. And I think what you're saying now really gives me clarity that that's what I need to do. I need to clarify my brand, and then everything spills out of that. Things I've already got, things I've already thought about, but haven't pulled together into one place.
That's exactly it. And I think that if you do that, especially what we mentioned before about what do you stand for and what do you stand against, and not that you have to be super public about that, but it will come through in all of your social media, your posts. You have to have that starting point for and against. If you can, because otherwise we just become a needle in a haystack and we just blend in and everything is beige out there. And there's nothing to make us stand out. And we really need to be that magnet with the attracting and repelling. If we're not attracting and repelling at the same time, it's very difficult to get traction. And so, that's why I've started being very open. I work with all kinds of people from all walks of life, actually. And if they want to come learn from me, fantastic. But the way I stand out is by being very open about my values and what I stand for. And it attracts people. And actually, we know we're doing it right when it attracts people from different walks of life because they will be attracted to that light. And I'm like, if you want to learn from me and you don't share the same beliefs, great. I'm happy to influence and share with you and coach you. Like, absolutely. Like, come learn from me. And that's a beautiful thing. So you still will attract people. It's not about, well, I only serve people, it doesn't have to be like that. But we have to be that, city on a hill that doesn't hide, right? We have to shine that light really bright. That also means, though, that we take a stand against other things. So you can't have one without the other. So I would just encourage you, get that solid. And this shouldn't take too long either, and because you already have a head start. Beauty, truth, and light, was it?
Yeah, goodness.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. And I love that phrase. I forget who invented that saying that beauty will save the world, but I so believe that in my core, and how we've gotten away from beauty. And if you just look at the way they build new modern buildings, and do you know what I mean? Like, everything is what reminds me of the book 1984, and everything is like brutalist architecture and concrete, and IKEA, everything is white and there's no character, there's no color, there's no beauty, there's no life, there's no imperfection, there's no nothing. And so you can really, people are starting to realize we're surrounded in brutalism.
Yeah.
Everything from clothing to architecture. So if you can run with that beauty will save the world message, holy smokes, like, people resonate with that. Like, crazy.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I feel that really strongly. That is something I stand for. And my paintings are also, as a Christian, an attempt to paint nature, but paint something that's just beyond what you can see. So I want to point people sort of to the beauty of creation, but also beyond it. And it ties together really nicely, and it feels really aligned to what I stand for.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I have seen a lot of artists, when you really bring that message that you just said there, if you lead with that, and every time you make a post or you show, a time lapse of you painting something, or you show just your finished work, or carousels would be really well of like stages of the process, things like that. And you share what you just said, people will just share that. They are going to resonate. They're going to love that. They will follow you. They will be attracted to it because it's coming from such an organic, authentic place. And I think that you can build a whole brand off of that. And I've just seen it already work. I've seen it, like, people who even paint. I know you're very more nature inspired, but I've seen people, talking about their inspiration, their spiritual inspiration for it, or it was a dream, or just the Lord spoke to them and they, I've seen, those very lifelike paintings of Jesus and whatnot, and they go crazy because people are just like, you can tell it's inspired. It's just so beautiful. So you are definitely on the right track. This is a process of exploration, like we said before, and finding, these different avenues, and then figuring out what's that 20% that's going to produce the 80% of results. We don't know yet. And I went through the same thing. I had to explore. And then, as you know, I ended up doing candles on the side, and that was just part of a Kickstarter campaign to support the album. And that ended up, I was like, well, I'll keep doing some candles for my music brand. But then I realized, you know what, this could be its own separate brand. So that was a very conscious choice where I'm like, I want to build a brand that maybe I can sell one day. So I made that very intentionally separate, but it didn't have to be. I could have just kept it under my brand. It would have worked. But that's how these things, you don't know where they're going to go until we get there. And so this is what I want to encourage everybody about, is sometimes you just don't know the how. You don't know what you don't know. And it's about moving forward, stepping forward. And then you figure it out once you get there. It's kind of like we cross the bridge when we get to the bridge. We cross it when we get there. And we just have to keep moving forward, staying in motion. And these little, I just call them micro pivots. It's not even like you're overhauling anything. You're just making a micro pivot and adding in something new, trying something new, exploring that avenue. That's how we get there. Like, that is literally how, and you'll know because you're going to strike gold one of these days. Like, I love that picture, a cartoon that I've seen for years. I don't know who originally drew it. The one, someone's like mining underground, and there's the wall, and there's like the whole heap of like diamonds or gold on the other side of the wall, and it's like 2 inches between them and that gold, but they already gave up and turned and started walking back the other direction. It's a cartoon. I've seen this. Yeah. I don't know who made it, but I just feel like we're like that. It's right there, but we sometimes give up just before we got that breakthrough. And so I just really want to commend you for not giving up, for recognizing, you've really been coming a long way with your mindset and with recognizing and just awareness of, oh, okay, I think I'm maybe, you're becoming aware of some of the limiting beliefs that have come up. And this is huge progress.
Yeah.
And so I just want to commend you for continuing to be on the journey and exploring and not giving up. You are there. You are absolutely about to get that breakthrough. So I'm confident of that. You have everything needed to succeed. Like you have talent, real talent that matters. You have the character, you have the drive, you have a vision, and you have grit and determination. So with those ingredients, like this is just a matter of time. You are the miner and the wall's right there. So
Love it.
yeah, I have every confidence that you're going to succeed.
Thank you, Leah. I love that cartoon as well. And I will actually print out a copy and stick it on my studio wall.
Yes. No, that's perfect. I love that. I think everybody should do that. Print out that little cartoon. You just Google, I don't know what the name of it is, but it's like,
Yeah.
mining for, I always see like diamonds, but it could be gold or something else.
Yeah.
And it's like right there. So don't give up. So, and you're not, and you're determined to move forward. And we had that awesome session where we did what we call a postmortem on launches. And even that, like you took that so well, you received that feedback so well, and to be more data driven. Now you'll apply that to whatever it is that you do next, that you try next.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the stationery and adding your art to physical products. And it's a matter of, hey, let's build that following. Let's build that audience of people who love what you do, your style, because they're going to want to buy anything. They'll buy anything you put out. And that's the thing about treating yourself as an artist as a personal brand. So I always tell musicians, you're not a musician, you're a personal brand. You're not an author, you're a personal brand. And within that, you have different products and services and you test different things and you see what the audience likes, but you have to build the personal brand. You have to build that. And so we got to get you put on the map and known for something really specific that you do. So if it's a book, if it's music or it's art, we got to get you put on the map and get really well known for that. So that is a matter of just the audience building that we do. So you're on the right track and it's going to be a good year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I guess just one question is with the people that I currently have in my audience and on my email list, if I'm going to really solidify and clarify where I'm going, would you just recommend I just post an email saying, this is who I am? Because that will attract and repel. I'm sure I've got hundreds of people on my email list who don't know I'm a faith-based artist or anything. And so it would be quite good if they weren't on there, maybe. How do you approach the sort of practical rebranding?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I heard someone put it this way once. We're driving down the road. We're on a mission. We're going to a destination. And we're going to give people the opportunity to hop on the bus and hop off the bus. And we make a lot of stops and checkpoints where they can get on or they can get off. And so I think that every time you reaffirm your values, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm all about, we're giving people the opportunity to hop on and hop off. And that's perfect. That's exactly what we're aiming to do. So, I don't think it has to be anything big and dramatic. I think you can just say, if you don't know this, you can even present it as like fun facts about me, fun facts, or this is what I'm all about. Did you know, you might not have known this, but my faith drives my art. And, this is my worldview. And because here's how I've put it before, because I'm obviously very forward with my faith, but my music, I don't call it like, in the Christian genre of music at all. It's because to me, art and music, this is just an extension of your worldview. You can't disconnect the art from the artist. I don't even know that's not really possible. So to me, if you're an actor, you can put on a character, sure, and go on the stage, but you're not disconnected. So when I make music, I'm definitely going into more of like a character. I go to another place. I'm making it, again, it's like Celtic fantasy stuff, like Tolkien and all this. And it has nothing to do with my everyday life, you could say, but it is coming from a worldview. All art comes from a worldview. And so you can connect it that way. And you can just bring it out as like, you might not know this about me, or did you know? Like you can make it light and fun, but also make it strong, make it definitive, make it, there's nothing wrong with drawing lines in the sand on things, because I just think back to 2020 during COVID and all this, people who really started speaking out about their beliefs, they gained hundreds of thousands of followers, sometimes even millions, just by stating their views on things. And they gained so much support. I follow so many people from that time because they were willing to say what they stood for and against. And that really, really like put people on the map. And nothing's changed. That was a very good example during that time frame where people did that and they got shared so much and they got so many followers. So yeah, I think that's perfect. You can write an email about it. You can make, the beginning of an announcement. I'll tell you, when I went from I help all kinds of, creative entrepreneurs to, hey, these are my beliefs and I really am going to be passionate about helping this type of person. Anyone can learn from me, but I'm just going to be upfront about who I'm really passionate about helping.
Yeah.
That put me on the map. And I think my Instagram grew by like 30,000 people very quickly just from doing that. And I had more people join and work with me than ever. First of all, they want to support people who they align with their values, but also they also don't want to have to filter everything. People get very tired of having to filter everything they consume and everything they're supporting. They want to know, like in the business world, half the people I listen to, I can't listen out loud because their language is so terrible. I can't play it out loud around my kids. Like it's, and that gets tiresome. People don't have to filter all the time. They want to know that I can support this artist. I can support like anything I get from this person is good. We have like these fundamental beliefs and values we align on and it feels good. And I want to support that. So I think that if you are fairly out and open about what you believe in, you're just going to get a lot of support. I don't think you're really going to, in your world, you won't get that many haters, but it will repel the wrong people, which is perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did completely.
Okay, awesome. Well, I am so glad that we got to touch base on this and that it's helpful. I think this is a very helpful conversation for artists, musicians, authors, like everywhere where they're feeling like pinned down by, one type of product or how do I build this brand? And the good thing is that we can have a lot of creativity and a lot of room to play with different offerings, maybe not all at once, but different offerings as we build up this brand. But we do have to become known for one thing specific. And for you, that's going to be your specific style of art and then your beliefs, right? Like what's inspiring this whole thing? It's the story behind the brand. That's going to put you on the map. And then we can sell some of these other things. And you never know, like when you come up with that stationery, some people might find that first and then become a super fan of all the rest of your works. So that happens too. But we don't know until we try that. So I think that's the moral of the story is we have to go explore these different avenues as an artist. And we will find that 20% that produces the 80% results. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm really excited and it's reinvigorated me because I think I felt I had slightly got paralyzed and I have this sort of tendency to worry about wasting time and wasting money because I know how important it is to act fast, but actually it's counterproductive for me because then I get paralyzed. So this I feel like is really broken down some of those barriers and I'm excited to go and properly brand myself to those values. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I said, it's going to be a good year this year. We're at the beginning, so it's the perfect time to start kind of mapping out the things you want to test. And for you, I think, let's get known with content and whatnot, and we'll start attracting that audience. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being willing to chat on the podcast. I know it's going to help so many artists and people thinking about their brand, and I appreciate your vulnerability and your authenticity. It's really a pleasure to work with you.
Oh, thank you, Leah. Well, I've so enjoyed this past year and I'm excited about this coming year.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we'll talk soon then.
Thank you.
You're welcome.